thank you so much for coming back. It's all coming for the first time. It's such a joy to be here and to be thinking about some of your stories. I always love it when people come and chat to me afterwards, either to grill me with hard questions or tell me where they're coming from. So if you wanna do that today, please do. Our question today: can I ever really be free? And it's a big question, a deep question. Freedom is something that I think we all know what we mean, and yet it's hard quite to describe. Nina Simone sings that beautiful blues classic, I wish I knew how it feels to be free. Do you know how it feels to be free? Really free. Freedom is our watchword. It's something everyone wants. And if you ask someone if they want freedom, it almost sounds like a stupid question. Because what's the alternative? And who would want that? But what exactly is it? How would we find it? Talk to enough people, and freedom seems to be an endlessly plastic word, meaning whatever we want it to. Many years ago, 8 years ago, I went up to university as a bright-eyed fresher. I had more hair back then, fewer scars and wrinkles. But I knew what I was looking for was freedom. And I thought I'd find it at university. In fact, I thought it would be kind of automatic. I thought just being at university would deliver all the freedom I was lacking all through school and teenage years. My working definition of freedom back then was this: being free to choose to live however you pleased. Being free to express yourself without anyone restricting you. No parents, no teachers. More grandly, no political or stifling religious orthodoxies. No restrictions imposed on me from outside. Free to express myself, whatever form that expression might take. And it might be that you've found that freedom all around you here at Durham and you're looking to make the most of it. 4 years after I arrived at university as a fresher, this view of freedom was perfectly expressed in a landmark artistic meditation on this very question. I'd like to quote from it, and I think all of you will know it because it's a cultural work of truly great significance. And in this moment I'm about to quote, a character finds freedom. They say, "Don't let them in. Don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal. Don't feel. Don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go. Let it go." Frozen is a story all about someone who lets it go and finds freedom. After a long childhood suppressing her magical gifts, Princess Elsa breaks free. She breaks free from her parents' terrible advice: conceal, don't feel, don't let it show. And as she abandons her childhood repression, she gets a heady rush of freedom and she sings, "It's time to see what I can do, to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free." The richest, truest freedom, Elsa tells us, is freedom to express yourself without anyone restricting your choices. In the light of which any religious claim is going to sound seriously muted. At their worst, religions are among the voices that say conceal, don't feel, don't let it show. And you might be thinking, what are the Christians doing talking about freedom? What kind of freedom could they have? Well, it's against this backdrop that a 2,000-year-old saying makes a unique contribution. One of the claims Jesus made was this: the truth will set you free. Now, at first glance, truth is an awkward guest to invite to your freedom party, maybe even a dangerous guest, because freedom is a plastic word, but truth comes with hard edges. But I take it you're only here because you're interested in truth. I take it you're here at Story because you want to know whether this story might be true for you or true for others. In the broadest sense, I take it you're here at Durham as a student because you're willing to be challenged and hear different perspectives. Whatever it is you study here, whether you study something like the sciences or a noble subject like English, I take it you're doing that because you want to know reality as it really is, and you'd rather pursue that than settle for any number of happy delusions. The truth will set you free, such that the richest, truest freedom won't be found apart from the truth. Now, I want us to hear that claim as it was originally given, and we find it in a first century eyewitness account of Jesus' life, called John's Gospel. We've been waving it from the front all week. Let me read this awkward encounter, and it does get awkward. If you wanted to follow, it's at the bottom of page 50. To the Jews who'd believed him, Jesus said, "If you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." They answered him, "We are Abraham's descendants and have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say we shall be set free?" Jesus replied, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." Many people had started following and supporting Jesus, and speaking to them, Jesus makes this claim: the truth will set you free. And they react just as badly as you or I would to the insinuation that they aren't already free. They counter with the fact of their religious, ethnic heritage. They truly believe that it secured them. They were chosen, favoured, free children of Abraham. How could Jesus call them slaves? But the way Jesus responds to them pulls the rug out from under that definition of freedom I offered earlier. His response cuts deeper than their ethnic and religious claims. He says, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. You see, choosing whatever I like may look like freedom at first, but if I make the wrong choices, when I make the wrong choices, it actually ends up being a kind of slavery. The richest, truest freedom won't be found that way. Now, when Jesus talks about sin, it's clear he isn't primarily referring to just the wrong things people do. He's talking about the attitude beneath them that puts the wrong things at the centre of our lives, the attitude that makes those wrong choices. He's referring to our capacity to put ourselves at the centre, and in fact to put ourselves first to the exclusion of others. And given that capacity, which I know is in myself, unrestricted self-expression actually traps me, actually traps us. Like a beached whale declaring freedom from the sea and finding itself unable to swim, unable to survive. Freedom to express oneself can actually deprive us of a richer, truer freedom. And if you don't believe me, we just have to go back to Frozen to see it. What happens when Princess Elsa lets go? She actually discovers another kind of captivity. The tragedy of the film from the very beginning is that Princess Elsa is locked behind her door, away from her sister, Princess Anna. And the relationship they could have had is stifled, leaving Anna vulnerable and rejected, and Elsa frustrated and repressed. But then Elsa breaks free, and it actually changes nothing. She's still locked behind a door, but she's just swapped her bedroom for an ice fortress. She's still a captive. And worse than that, she's unleashing a winter that can destroy her kingdom. And when she discovers it, she sings again, but this time distraught. I can't be free. No escape from the storm inside of me. She lets it go, but she's still not free. Still a captive. Still can't build a snowman with her sister. She breaks free, but real freedom is out of reach. And don't so many of us know that feeling? We enjoy sexual liberation, but real intimacy seems to be lacking. We're promised such joy when we go on our nights out, and yet it always seems at arm's length. With every drink we take, it seems to get further away, not closer. We have more social media in our pockets than anyone could have dreamed of 10 years ago, more connected than ever. And yet it's like we've just found new ways of being lonely, new ways of being left out. Breaking free doesn't change things when you're a captive on the inside. Now, Frozen is a fairy tale, so it couldn't just end like that. And actually the way it does end is a surprisingly profound, maybe not surprising to Disney fans here, reflection on how freedom really works. You see, the curse that's followed Elsa from her birth can only be undone by a heroic act of true love. And it turns out that instead of some tall, dark, handsome prince, it's her sister Anna who performs that heroic act of true love, an act of self-sacrifice. And this is what resolves Elsa's lifelong search for freedom. You see, the richest, truest freedom doesn't come as she expresses herself without restrictions. She finds the richest, truest freedom within certain restrictions. Specifically, within a relationship. That's what a relationship is, a set of restrictions that enable you to have greater freedom to be known and know someone else. And it's in that context of a loving relationship that Elsa finds who she really is. So that when she sacrifices her freedom of unrestricted self-expression, she finds a better freedom. The freedom to lead her people. Freedom to escape a winter of solitude. Freedom to build a snowman with her sister again. What a deeper look at freedom shows us is this. It's not about escaping restrictions. It's about picking the right ones. And that's as true here at university as it is anywhere else. Come exams, you exchange your freedom to do whatever you like for hours in the library. But in return, you find the better freedom that comes a few years down the line, when it's easier to get a job with a good degree. You give up your freedom for hours of rehearsal. But in return, you find better freedom when you're performing on stage and you're able to enter fully into the story you're telling or the music you're performing. If you're a rower, you give up your freedom to wake up at normal times. In fact, you give up your freedom to be a normal person in any way. And yet I'm told, in return, you find a better freedom. Freedom on the river, to work better as a team and pull ahead. But best of all is the paradoxical freedom of relationships. You give up your freedom to be just who you are without anyone else interfering. And in exchange, you find a better freedom. You find intimacy, security, and joy. The journalist David Brooks said this in a graduation speech. Your fulfillment in life will not come from how well you explore your freedom and keep your options open. That's the path to a frazzled, scattered life in which you try to please everyone and end up pleasing no one. Your fulfillment in life will come by how well you end your freedom. Which means that our question, can I really be free, actually distills down to this. What kind of relationship would enable me to be truly free? And this is where Jesus' claim is so liberating. He said to those who'd begun to follow him, if you hold to my teachings, you are really my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What Jesus has to offer is a relationship, the kind that unlocks the richest, truest freedom. And I think deep down we all do sense that there's a real, rich freedom to be found in relationships, but we have our doubts. What if we enter into a relationship with someone who lets us down? That's what Anna discovers in the film. She thinks that love is an open door. But the problem with open doors is that any scumbag can walk in, even if they look like charming princes at first. So it won't just be entering into any relationship that will do it. That won't automatically bring freedom. It's about a relationship with the right person, one who won't let us down. But even when we find the right person, how do we know that they'll accept us? Even if they won't let us down, how do we know if they'll let us in? What we're all craving is acceptance, and we're striving to form meaningful, deep relationships, and it's terrifying when you think you might be rejected. Cast your mind back to your first Freshers Week. Maybe you remember what I mean. Longing to make good friends, not to blow it. Afraid that somehow you'll accidentally say something really stupid or uncool or racist, and people will reject you. And you're terrified of that. What if they reject me because they find me annoying? What if they don't like being around me? Or how about, deeper than that, we fear they might reject us, but for right reasons. That somehow people might see through us to the things in us we don't want them to see, to the things we're trying to hide. And that's why in this encounter, Jesus is so provocative. If you read on, what you'll find is this discussion about freedom and slavery ends with people trying to kill him. He's being very challenging. But when we see that the richest, truest freedom is found in relationships, and that sin is this attitude that puts ourselves at the centre and keeps us from the joy of finding relationships with others, I think then we can see why Jesus uses this strong slavery language. Because what he's talking about is really bleak. A self-centeredness problem that would keep you from joy in relationships. And self-centeredness truly is a dark place to be. You see, one of the problems with defining freedom as total self-expression is this. What about the darker parts in me? If I express those parts of me, well, what kind of freedom is that going to bring me? And actually, who should tell me what parts of me I should express and what parts I shouldn't? The fact is, all of us fear rejection. We all fear the discovery of parts of us we don't like. And so we take our cue from what others want from us. We're suppressing what we think they'll reject. And that's no freedom at all. Because we're living out the script we think everyone else is writing. Do you know that feeling? You make a trade, a Faustian pact. You swap the bits of you think others will not like for behaviour you think that they will. But in the end, you can never be sure. Do they really like you? Or the person you're pretending to be? But Jesus' offer poses us another question. What if there were a relationship secure enough for you to be who you really are, and where you would still never have to fear rejection? The relationship Jesus offers is one in which the truth will set us free. The truth about God, the truth about the world, and the truth about us. And the thing you find with Jesus is that he is honest enough to deal with the truth about us. He will call us out on our wrong choices. But he's also loving enough to bear with the truth about us. And so what he offers is freedom in the context of a loving relationship with him. The only relationship secure enough for us to find room to express ourselves fully. He says, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." Jesus' radical claim is this. The God who is there and who made everything and who made you sees you as you are, sees every part of you, sees all of your best efforts and all of your worst. He's the one who belongs at the centre of everything. And he is the one that we've rejected when we put ourselves at the centre. He's the one we've pushed out. And yet for all that, this God does not reject us. In his love, he sent his Son to set us free. That's what's unique about this relationship. It's built on unconditional acceptance, unconditional love. It's the relationship in which you are fully known and still fully accepted, still fully loved. And what Jesus says is, when you get that, you walk around with all of the outrageous freedom of a child in their family home. What does that mean? It means having nothing to hide in life about what you've done or what you're like. Because he knows it all, and it doesn't turn him off. He still loves you. It means having nothing to prove. He's not marking your performance and waiting to catch you out. You are already accepted. And it means you have nothing to fear, because this amazing love was offered to you when you didn't do anything to get it. So nothing you do could lose it. Nothing to fear, nothing to hide, nothing to lose. Life that is truly free. And this week we would love to invite you to discover what kind of freedom Jesus could offer you. Here's what history shows us about Jesus. His generous offers of love are extended to all kinds of people. Nobody ever seems too broken or too messed up. For him, he claims to value us all. Now, that's a big claim. And although we are used to all kinds of people saying things they don't really mean, what we find about Jesus is that he keeps his word. And he's committed to his words, even when it costs him. And so he ends his life in a heroic act of true love. But this isn't a fictional fairy tale like Frozen. This act of true love happened in real history with all of the brutality and humiliation that a crucifixion entails. And one of the things we read about Jesus is he dies there, literally offering forgiveness to the people who are rejecting him. As they nail him to the cross, he says, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." Which tells us that if he is able to meet the worst of us, our most bitter jealousy and anger, with such great love, that tells us that even at our very point of rejecting him, he offers love. He's able to open his arms, he's able to accept. And so he's able to give a freedom that never fades, because this forgiveness will always be on offer, and our very worst choices and failings won't jeopardize what he's got to give. That would be a limitless freedom to be who you are. It would be a relationship that delivers when no other can. And his earliest followers discovered that in the most dramatic way. 3 days later, they found that not even death could bring an end to Jesus, or the relationship he offers, or the freedom that comes with that. Death, which wrecks every other relationship going, couldn't put an end to him. Nothing could stop the freedom they found. And so they filled their city, filled their empire, filled the known world with this message that Jesus had set them free. And not all the persecution they faced, not all of the threats, not even the killings could stop them, because they were free, free indeed. And many people in this marquee today could tell you about what that freedom feels like, and it's something you could have today. So let me ask you, what do you make of it? Let me finish with Jesus' claim that the truth will set you free. And if you think about it, that's really an invitation. As I said yesterday, our word of the year last year was post-truth. We've had government spokespeople talking about alternative facts. But Jesus is saying that if we're post-truth, we forfeit our chance for freedom. It's only as we realise the truth about who God is that real freedom becomes a possibility. And Jesus invites us all to discover that truth. The truth about ourselves, known in full for all of our inner light and inner darkness, and yet loved in full with a light that no amount of darkness can overcome. He's inviting all of us here to discover that truth for ourselves. And for some of us, that might mean taking this evidence seriously, digging in for ourselves, seeing the impact this man made with his scandalous offer of freedom. Do take this book away, do read it, do come to your own conclusions about who Jesus is. Investigate him. But don't stop there. Because if he is who he says he is, then this amazing, scandalous offer of freedom is on offer to you today. The kind of freedom that enables you to be who you really are is on offer, and you can have it.